Monday, May 16th, 2022. I'm just here with a brief thought about a subject I have been contemplating a bit more over the last couple of weeks, but time has not permitted that I be able to sit down and do anything like this right now. I do have a little more time today to work on some things, and this may not be my only video today. I may actually come back and do a couple of more. We'll see how things go. But as you can see from the title, I'm here to critique a little bit what I'm calling the inexplicable bifurcation within Christianity of the human and angelic worlds, or the human and angelic realms, specifically with regard to the theme of fall and redemption, or theosis. I guess you could just put it under the general theme of theosis. What does not make sense to me, and I never got an adequate response to this in all the years that I entertained the question. I just sort of took it for granted that angels and humans being of a different nature, completely different nature, Jesus not taking on an angelic nature but taking on human flesh, only humans were capable of being redeemed and angels were not. That creates a bit of a difficulty in the ontology and in the metaphysics of Christianity, which I'd like to point out now. So as we know, and when I address Christianity, I'd like it to be known at the outset that I'm trying to address Christianity in its purest form, which I consider to be the Eastern tradition. And that's what I last came out of after spending the first part of my life as a Protestant. So I spent 14 years in the Orthodox Church. So with that said, as we all know, as the narrative goes, God put Adam and Eve in a garden, and they had to undergo a kind of probation in order to acquire eternal life. They were not mortal when they were created, but because they were not God by nature, neither were they immortal. They could acquire immortality without dying, but they were capable of experiencing mortality. They were capable of not fulfilling their probation. So the main idea that I'm critiquing at this point is the idea that angels can be saved apart from Christ, or at least apart from the incarnation, and that fallen angels cannot be redeemed. So what you essentially have, by acknowledging that angels can acquire theosis or deification apart from the incarnation, that's a very dharmic notion. And since the Orthodox Church has a relatively robust mystical tradition of hesychastic meditation, one would have to reasonably conclude that the means by which those angels acquired theosis would have been mysticism on some level. We don't know what that would have looked like. for the angels, because the Orthodox Church doesn't really get into that. But nevertheless, I think we have to draw that conclusion. Otherwise, what's the point of even having it? What's the point of even having mysticism? And if you're not saved by the incarnation of Christ, if they were not saved by the incarnation of Christ specifically, then it would have demanded a process of meditation and mystical contemplation and prayer to acquire that state, that deified state. The demons, of course, the fallen angels in Christianity are assumed by most to be, and by definition, dogmatically, the Eastern Church says that they are forever damned. We're not really told, though. This is the problem. Is we're not. There is no explanation or adequate explanation for why the incarnation could not extend to the fallen angels, and why Christ's descent into Hades could not extend to them. So on the one hand, you have one scheme of redemption for the angels who did not fall, and for those who did among the angelic ranks, that was their first and only shot. You lose your first shot and you've lost it forever. In the human realm, of course, we have a completely different scheme, which involves the Logos taking on human flesh, taking on a human body, and then being sacrificed as an atoning sacrifice for the sins of the people. And then by entering the church, one acquires a status of justified. And then through a process of sanctification, if not the acquisition of union prior to death, through mystical union, one is finally redeemed in this other, according to this other path. What I find, so I guess I would just summarize it this way. I don't understand, and I've never had it adequately explained, why the angels, or the fallen angels, could not have been an object of Christ's sacrificial atonement. Because the angels, although they are bodiless relative to humans, they still have a body. God is pure spirit. The angels do have a body. However subtle, however fine, they have one. And since Christ passed through the angelic realm and the human realms and the realm of Hades, it stands to reason that we've got lots of banners coming down and notifications. It stands to reason that he would have acquired all of these beings along the way. So, from that standpoint, it doesn't make sense to me. And then secondly, you have the church admitting that the angels who remained obedient acquired deification. Now, we know from the mystical tradition of the Orthodox Church that deification is not simply acquired by by doing good things, by accumulating good karma, so to speak, or by simply the avoidance of evil, the avoidance of sin. We are assimilated into the divine life. So there's a real union that takes place. It's not purely forensic, even though I think the East is inconsistent about that. They are very good at pointing out that they are more about becoming like God than the Western tradition, which is more or less, or has been traditionally, obsessed with forensic forensic categories and thinking of salvation in terms of the acquisition of a legal status. So, with that said, I don't think there's a whole lot more that can be added here other than to say the bifurcation doesn't make sense. If Christ can save humans, he should be able to save angels the same way, fallen angels. And if the angels who did not fall acquire theosis through a direct form of mystical contemplation, then that should be possible for humans. This is a very dualistic scheme that ontologically, metaphysically, and philosophically is, in my mind, just out of accord. There's no real reason why that should be. So, that said, I will probably be returning a little bit later today to discuss another theme I find very problematic, which is the theme of human sacrifice.